everybody. I am HuffPost reporter Lee Blickley. Thank you all for being here at Build Series and joining us on the web. If you have a question, you can use the button right here to submit one, because this afternoon we are joined by the ever-inspiring director Sally Potter and a few members of her cast, just some casual names, Emily Mortimer and Patricia Clarkson, you know, small actresses, for their new movie, The Party, which follows a group who are celebrating a friend's new career move. But, you know, as the champagne just gets popping, tragedy strikes. Let's take a look at the trailer.
April. Congratulations. Where's Janet? Doing a Thatcher, proving she can still rustle up a canapé in the kitchen when necessary.
It's been too long.
Possibly. It's a triumph for womankind. Well, for any kind, for that matter. Oh, wow.
I'm a bit surprised.
Really? Well, I am.
I may not believe in politics, but I absolutely do believe in you.
I have an announcement.
What is it, darling?
I'm leaving you. Another woman.
During the campaign, while I was on the road, and you kept telling me I could do it.
You did do it.
And you were doing it while I did it.
It's not my wife! She chose me.
Martha, you knew. Because I was so dedicated to saving our country, you decided to let them do it in your flat. I thought better than in your house.
You're a first-class lesbian and a second-rate thinker. Must be all those women's studies.
We shared everything.
Everything.
Did you sleep together?
Once. It was fun, though.
What's happening?
Revenge.
No, I don't believe in revenge. I never have.
Although it might have a deleterious effect on your career strategy, you could consider murder.
Tom is one of those amoral money men.
Intellectuals, you think you're so superior. Money bought this house, not ideas. Truth. Is that a concept that any of you have heard of?
This is our last supper, in a 21st century postmodern, post-feminist sort of way.
I'm so sorry.
If you really want to run this country, you will have to do something about your hair.
I was working day and night for our party. I thought you were a sister.
Oh, that dates you, Janet. Sisterhood is a very aging concept, sweetheart.
Ah, how great is that trailer? Let's welcome Sally Potter, Patricia Clarkson, and Emily Mortimer, everybody. How much fun did that look? I got the chance to see this amazing dark comedy, and I loved it so much. How did the idea for this strike you? Because you haven't done a comedy in the past, have you, Sally?
I think I've had a tendency towards wit, you know, but maybe not full-on laughter-inducing work. But I really wanted to do that because I feel, you know, we're living in, let's say, tense times, and we need the medicine of laughter more than ever. And also, it's kind of a shortcut to tackling some serious subjects. So I thought of it as a comedy wrapped around a tragedy, actually, but in which people can laugh cathartically as stuff goes wrong.
I loved it. What about you guys? What drew you to the script when you first read it?
Well, what draws me to it now as I watch the trailer, which is just that it's sort of anarchic and wild and completely unlike anything else, and it felt really exciting and fun. Reading it and performing in it. Sally shot it in 12 days, in one set, really, on a soundstage, and we. It was just a sort of riot, and it felt like a really good way of dealing with quite heavy stuff, you know, and the way that we all think about politics is become such an important part of our everyday life now, and for Sally to shine the light on these characters and see the ridiculousness of the way that they think about everything, including politics and life and death and birth and love. It did feel like medicine, as Sally said, just the whole thing. And I got that vibe right from the second I read it, which was kind of well before really all the big drama of our lives had started to unfold. Brexit was still way in the future when I first read it, as was Donald Trump. But now it's more needed than ever, this movie, and I'm so grateful to Sally and to it for giving us the chance to be in it.
I think you captured the zeitgeist. You wrote it 3 years ago, but how prophetic you knew the zeitgeist now of today 3 years ago. And that's what, when I read it, I thought, it's a whirlwind. It pulls the cover back. It lifts the curtain. It reveals a different side to these rather serious and at times very pretentious, but at times very good people, that we can be very complicated, as you've spoken about, and a vast mixture of things. All of us, you think we're one thing in this film, and you'll be very surprised at the twists and turns of where we end up in 71 minutes. It's the new Fast and Furious, and there's not a single car or people taking their shirts off.
The budget was just as big, though, I'm sure, right?
Yes, of course.
Of course. So when you sat down to write this, and of course you were thinking about what was going on in our world and in politics, did you ever imagine that it would be at where we're at right now?
What, the world or the film?
The politics.
In a funny way, nothing's that surprising in politics. Anywhere that it can go, it will go. And I think that people have said there's something prophetic about the film. Brexit happened halfway through our shoot, exactly halfway through our shoot. But of course, I didn't know about that when I was writing it. But I think how things end up start some way back. You know, it doesn't really happen overnight. It appears to. It's like it takes you by surprise. Like more than half the country in the UK went, what? You know, when the result of the referendum about Brexit, and as I understand it, half the people went, what? After the election of your president. So I think, but it doesn't really come from nowhere. You know, the causes run deep, and you have to analyze what they are and where they are. And if you're writing a film that isn't actually given a date or particular, you know, political party or anything, you're dealing with the big universal themes that come into play also in political life: friendship, betrayal, loyalty, the difficulty above all in this story of how to speak the truth. Now that's what feels so pertinent about it, because the whole issue of is there even such a thing as truth seems to be in the air, with, of course. So it's very contentious. But that's what each of these individual characters are dealing with in their lives.
Let's talk about the characters. We have two very good ones here on stage, but you have a great ensemble of characters. Talk about developing each of them and kind of figuring out, you know, why you wanted to write this character to mesh with this character and kind of get your story across.
Well, the technical challenge as a writer was how to have 7 characters, each of whom are absolutely different from each other, follow them through the story and never lose track of where they are, and see what each one is doing to the other one.
And you were so good at keeping us singular, keeping us very separated. We remained 7 very individualistic, totally. And that's your doing. And Sally's such a visionary, and she really saw it all. I call you have eagle eyes. You can see everything at every time, and it was so beautiful how we remained true to the character every single day, and we didn't let them blend or meld in any way, and it was vital to the story.
But I have to say, this ensemble was so amazing that when you write a script and you're writing alone for a couple of years, and then the first time you hear somebody wonderful speak the lines, and not just speak the lines, but start to embody kind of top to toe in a way of sitting or moving or whatever, this person who's come out of your mind. It's an absolutely magical moment. And this group of actors, this ensemble, took what I'd written and kind of ran with it, flew with it, actually. So the level, everybody, it seemed to me, pushed each other's game up. That was the atmosphere, and took lots of risks. We
didn't want to disappoint each other, because we're either like, I'm a fan, you know, I'm a fanning out on all of these people next to me.
But we also had fun.
Oh yes, absolutely, and that was part of it. We could bicker and insult. I could tell, the brilliant Cherry Jones you're a first-class lesbian and a second-rate thinker, and then have a drink with her that night at the hotel, So I could tell you naughty things, and she knows I love her because I worked with her husband.
Yeah, Emily, did you feel the same way about, the set and the feeling between the characters?
Yes, I really did. I think we were all, I was talking to Sally about this earlier today, that there's something a little bit kind of demented about all of us as people, and a kind of an anarchic, both, that there's an anarchic quality to this film, and there's a kind of an anarchic quality to all these actors, which is what's kind of great about them. That's what I admire in all of them. Patty's performance in this film is just freaking unbelievable, and but the film speaks to that side of Patty, which is kind of like not like other people, and I think everybody's got a bit of that. They're risk-taking actors, all of the actors in the movie, and Sally really kind of sort of saw that in each of the characters and each of the actors that she cast to be in the characters, and also she helped us enormously, which is also quite rare in a lot of movies you turn up and you're lucky if you've had a kind of 5-minute conversation with the director and you walk onto the set thinking, I don't know how am I going to do this? But Sally really takes the time to talk through, over weeks. With each member of the cast, we talked to her individually over Skype and gone through the character and gone through the plot and gone through the story in a very kind of involved and exciting way. So you felt like you were finding it with her and with each other, and it was just a very kind of collaborative and fun process. But yeah, everybody's got a bit of a sort of mad twinkle in their eye, I think. And
every time I was like, oh, I love this character, I love April, I love Jenny, then you'd be like, what the hell just happened? They're crazy. Did you feel that when you went to cast the movie, because you have this is one of the best casts I've seen on screen, how was that process like? And did you have any names in mind when you were writing characters down?
I try and resist having names in mind while I'm writing, because who knows? Yeah. But the second I've got the draft, I go crazy and start really dreaming of who I might like, how they might work together. There's several couples in this story, so it was also about thinking about the alchemy of the couple. What would make a really interesting pairing that you'd never think of? So you get that sort of feeling of surprise. And then I always look at a lot of people's work and stuff before we meet, so I kind of feel I've already seen what they've done elsewhere, and then we meet, maybe the script, and hey, let's go. It's kind of like that. But it's a magical process, casting. Almost mystical, I find. It's like trying to create this blend, and you're imagining it, but you don't know if it will actually be that way. So at the last moment, it's an act of faith and an invitation. But at that moment, from my side, total commitment. That's it. This is the only person who could ever play this role, and it's going to be like the best thing they've ever done. That's kind of my sort of goal, That's the mood I go in with, and that's a fantastically exciting process.
I mean, this cast, you guys are amazing in this. Did you hear rumors of names who were already in the movie that kind of got you interested, or was it just the project itself?
We knew that Kristen and Tim were cast. Yeah. They were the first, and so that's right there.
Sure.
You're, it's and Sally. So it's a triumvirate. You're like, okay, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. But also, I really did read the script and think, this is really cool, and I've never read anything like this before, and I want to be part of this, and who knows where it might lead or what might come of it, but it's just an amazingly ambitious and kind of audacious screenplay, and it was exciting, and I knew and loved Sally anyway, because she'd worked with my husband before, and so that of course made me. But I was genuinely just really excited by the script, and I'm so thrilled that it's come out as well as its auspices were when I first read it.
It's we most of us in this movie, we have resumes, you know, a mile long. We've done a million things, and Sally took us, I think, each and every one of us to a new place as an actor.
Yeah.
And that's rare.
Yeah.
We've done a lot at this point in our lives, in our careers. So we're fortunate, and so I think for all of us to take this, it's audacious. It was a leap, a large leap of faith for most of us. We had no idea, could we actually really do this in 12 days? But Sally saw it. You saw it all, and she never missed a thing. And she was tough, but it was good. I think we get lazy as actors, and people let us be lazy. They do. I think at the end of the day, when I first saw the film, I'm so proud to be a part of this, and I look at all of what every single individual actor accomplished, and what the new shadings, the new timbre in their voice, it all happened. There are things that I've seen these actors do that I've never seen before in anything they've ever done. So it was glorious.
Well, just watching it, you get the sense how excited you guys were to be there, because you all brought such an A game. And this is really a cast of supporting members. Everybody's kind of supporting one another. Everyone gets their moment to shine. Is that one of the reasons that you guys wanted to be a part of it? The character development is great for 71 minutes. It's really astounding.
Yes, definitely. The feeling of just being part of this ensemble and putting this kind of this crazy thing that that Sally poured out onto the page, making it real and doing it together in a company, and it felt like, it did feel a bit like putting on a play in a lot of ways, because we rehearsed quite much more extensively than you would normally rehearse for a film, and then the experience of doing it was quite sort of the high adrenaline and high stakes, because there were like,
and not theatrical. You know, that's what I thought was quite powerful, is that it had the feel of, well, more like a chamber piece, but because it really wasn't a theatrical piece, and Sally was very careful that we were not in that. Yes, it was very true. It was very real, and she knew when it wasn't.
Speaking of theater, though, it really could be a play. I know I read somewhere that you never wrote it to be a play. You always wrote it to be a film. But could you see it heading to the stage? Because I really could. I can see it on stage.
Well, the crazy situation is that since it came out, and I was adamant this is only ever a film, I've written it for the screen, it's cinematic, it's pure cinema, it's so intimate, it's forensic in its examination of the characters. It's not about standing back and watching. But there have been like 12 big theatres from around the world who want to put it on as a play. And so finally, I said, okay, I'll see what it's like telling it. So I have actually adapted it for the stage, potentially. Great. But we'll see what happens with that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Well, you'll be cast in it, so just...
Yeah. So we'll see. And it's exciting, the idea of it having another life as well. And look, it's in black and white and it's 71 minutes, although originally I thought it would be a little longer. You know. But as I said, nobody has ever complained about a film being too short, but people regularly complain about films being too long. So
this one has a great ending too, which wants you want to know more at the end, which is always helpful. I do want to talk about the fact that it's in black and white, because we haven't even touched on that. Did you always know that you wanted to shoot it that way?
I did, yeah. I think I joke sometimes, black and white is so much more colourful. And I kind of mean that, because there's something about it's a miracle that we can see a black and white image and experience it completely as real. Something happens in the brain. We can interpret, if you like, this kind of line drawing of reality, because our imagination is activated. We fill in the information. rather than giving too much. And colour sometimes is an excess of information. Black and white means we concentrate on what's important. These figures in these spaces going through these experiences. Plus, it emphasizes light and shade, light and shadow, transformation, which is what each of the characters goes through, has their moment of illumination and their moment of secrets, of hiding. I have a theory, too, that the eye gets stimulated, the retina moves, opens and closes with the light and the dark in a way that is viscerally exciting and does something to the mind. Anyway, that's just a private theory. Plus, there's another reason that, there's so many, but it links us with the history of cinema, with the screwball comedies, with the Marx Brothers, with Buñuel, with the great classics. It's sort of like where we've come from in this medium. So it kind of has an echo of that, I think.
Or Virginia Woolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it really lends to this film. And like you said, you barely notice it because you're filling it in yourself. Even the set is so, you said it was so small, but even the bathroom, you could imagine what the wallpaper, what color it was, or what the yard looked like. It was really, or the books on the bookshelf.
You don't know what a testament it is to Sally and the film that she succeeded in having such a hit, which it's been all through Europe, this movie, with a black and white film, because you're told, I was in a movie that's been distributed at the same time that they actually shot to be in black and white, and ended up being forced to put it into color because they were told that they would never sell it, that no cinema would ever take it, that black and white movies don't sell, no one goes and buys tickets. And so it's such a triumph that she made the movie in black and white, and it's stayed in black and white, and that it's sold tickets all over Europe and in huge numbers, and people have really loved it and related to it. And I
think it's such an underestimation of audiences. Audiences are so cool. They are. They have such good taste.
You guys are so cool.
You can tolerate black and white, but I think it really. I think it. Each one of us, we're finely etched in that black and white, and therefore the language and the emotion and the emotional journey of each character really shines. It's powerful. It's and I think in this film in color, I don't think it would have had the impact that it has. I think it was. You were right. You're Sally Potter.
Sally's right. And I do want to touch on, too, the use of close-ups. So beautiful in this, where you could really get their emotion without them even speaking, or just those scenes where two other characters are talking, but you're looking at April on the couch or drinking champagne. Did you always know that, too, that you wanted to incorporate close-ups to get to that emotion of the characters?
I certainly wanted this feeling of intimacy, and discussed a lot with the cinematographer Alexei Rodionov, for Russian, third time I've worked with him, a way of looking at the character that was never quasi-objective. It was always with the character. He needed to kind of feel his way into what they were feeling or going through. So we had a lot of discussion about point of view from that perspective. And it's a smallish space, and it's people. It's what do people look at when they're with each other, especially if they're going through some major, huge thing that some of these people are going through. They look at each other's faces. They want to find out what they're not saying, what they're thinking. So a lot of what we needed to track was, what is the character not saying? So we've got lines, lots of lines, but we've also got a whole score, if you like, underneath that of this person is thinking or feeling this, or preparing to say but not quite saying that, or wishing this or that, and so on. And I think you get that when you come in close on wonderful actors as these are. You feel this hidden world, this rich, rich inner world, working in parallel with the things being said or expressed. And it's not about forcing it out. It's not about, I'm now going to show this thing. It's really, really working on the inside and trusting that the camera will find it. And with a cinematographer like Alexei, the camera does find it.
So great. Before I toss it to the audience, I do want to talk about, you know, being a woman director in Hollywood or in the business for so many years as you've been. We're finally seeing a woman have a big budget film. Ava DuVernay is coming out with A Wrinkle in Time. And I recently saw a movie called Half the Picture, which kind of goes into women directors and the kind of challenges you have to face. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you stay true to your own projects and really, you know, write and direct and do things the way you want to do it, like keep it a black and white film and push the industry a little bit? We could be up here for another hour.
I'm going to try. Why did I do that? Well, you can imagine why I did that. I think that what I decided very, very early on, nobody was ever going to hand me anything on a plate. Nobody was going to give me the opportunities. And quite likely, the things I was going to do, people might be kind of weird about it. But that in the light of that, I was never going to go victim, and I was going to create the opportunities. I was going to create my own worlds and invite people to join me. And that's, I think, it's kind of the paradoxical advantage of being less advantaged in the workplace. In other words, I didn't have the choice of going the conventional route. So I had to invent something else. And then gradually, people get kind of attracted to that way. So it's paradoxical. But, you know, the facts and figures speak for themselves about women directors. We're still less than 10%. It's therefore why? Well, at least one of the reasons is that as a director, you are a leader of the world of the imagination. You know, you are creating the memory bank, the image bank for the whole culture. It's a very powerful position. And up till now, there's been a feeling that the only ones who can be trusted to do that and reflect back the image that people want are those other ones. The other gender of the white persuasion. Yep. So, but you know, that is slowly changing. And every now and then when one thinks, wow, aren't things changing faster? You have to remember it's only 100 years women have had the vote. Women in Switzerland, by the way, only got the vote in 1971. Black men and women only got the vote in 1965 in the southern states of America. Change takes a bit of a while, and there were quite a lot of thousands of centuries before that. So we're not doing too badly.
Yeah, you're doing good. Well, you're doing great. Yeah. And I'm sure for you ladies, it must have been a powerful experience and a fun experience to be led by a woman on a set, I imagine.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
It's I've had the privilege of being directed by several women in my career, and it is different, and there is a certain language that we have, I think, as women, and it is a voice that must be heard, and I think it is. I think finally. A monumental shift is occurring in our industry. And it took some very, very bad things, some very criminal and predatory behavior to then really pull back the curtain and expose other things that our industry is guilty of. But I think it is finally, a new day is coming.
Well, I do want to open it up to some audience questions. So who's first? Here we go.
Hi. First, I just wanted to say I loved you in Laura's and the Real Girl. It's one of my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
So I know you mentioned rehearsing a lot. I know for comedy, was the inclination to maybe like play the roles a little bit larger than life and then tone them down, or did you during rehearsal or during filming play them more straight?
That's such a good question, and it's so hard to know the answer to. I think, again, when I was talking to Sally about this earlier, a mark of a good writer is when you read the script as an actor, you sort of just intrinsically know the world that they've created. You understand the world that you're in as a character, and that informs how you play the part. And you know, it's so much more sort of complicated than do you do it straight or do you do it for laughs? And of course, really, always you have to do it straight, deadly serious, like not playing for the comedy, but this is the world of the imagination still, and this is Sally's, the world of her imagination, and you just kind of get by osmosis, as well as by talking to Sally and talking to each other and being there, a feeling of how of the way people behave in this world, which is not necessarily completely how they always behave in real life, although they might sometimes, and they do often, but you just get a sense of the world, and there's this kind of general sense of the reality of the world we're all inhabiting. And then within that, you just feel the feelings that, you know, try to feel the feelings that your character would be feeling at that moment, and inhabit the character in as kind of organic and earthbound a way as you can. But it's not entirely honest to say, you know, you always just keep it completely real, because your version, one's own version of reality is different from anyone else's, and what is real anyway. But I think there is that feeling of just, no, I understand what this world is, and a good writer somehow communicates the world of their movie to you as an actor without you really having to ask that much about it. And it just sort of, you understand it somehow. Is that a okay answer?
Hi. Since you're doing this film on in theater, and I wonder what your thoughts are. Since it's in black and white, how are you going to interpret that in the theater world, since people are going to see in color?
Oh, that was a great question.
Thank you.
Maybe they'll wear black and white. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
No, I think that different things apply. And I think on stage you can do incredible things with light, dark, on, off, shadow, and so on. And there's an inherent abstraction in the theatre world because you're always looking into a fourth wall, which is not the same with the film. The film camera goes into that world, so to take it a stage away from realism, you have to do something else. But it's a wonderful question. Yeah.
Now Sally's thinking, like, how? We have time for one more.
Hi, Sally. My question is for you. You said that you grew up in this atheist and an anarchical background, which made you question a lot of things, and you couldn't take anything for granted. Yet I see like all these same ideologies of parallels being drawn in this film, where you try to develop each character so you don't really ever know what they're up to. My question is, why do you think it is so important for you to also showcase your perception and help others question the same motifs of your characters?
Well, that's kind of a lot of questions in one, actually. Yeah. But I'll tell you what I took from it, a feeling that maybe I can sort of answer it in a roundabout way. When I'm writing these characters, all of whom have different beliefs, I try to step into their shoes with as much compassion as I can find. So, in other words, there's no good character or bad character. There's nuanced, complicated individuals who can be and hold more than one thing at once. So, in other words, the difference between, let's say, a religious faith where there's a great deal of certainty, if I can say that there's a kind of an atmosphere of uncertainty and unpredictability that I see with great love in characters who I don't necessarily agree with. Some of the things that each of the characters say I agree with, and others I don't. That really isn't the point. It's more like the leap into the shoes of others is what guarantees us a future. Because what do we find there? Somebody just like us.
Way to put it. Very good. Right? Very good answer for that. Well, I try not to spoil it. I try not to give away any spoilers, so you guys have to see this movie. And we didn't touch on any of the plot points, so it really is exciting. You have to see it. When does it come out in the U.S.? It's already out on
Friday.
Yeah, guys, please go see this movie. It's so great. It's different than what you've seen this year. I love the Angelica. Guys, if you're in New York, go to the Angelica. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all.